this is the 4th episode. I've made a note on the back. State of Play episode 4, because I was losing track.
You keep track of that.
So yeah, today we're going to talk about... Well, I'm going to talk about Warlocks 2, Senran Kagura Peachball, Irony Curtain from Matryoshka with Love, and I'm going to touch back on American Fugitive. And Rupert's
all the AAA titles.
Oh, nothing but the classics on State of Play. Rupert's going to talk about Cadence of Hyrule, Virtua Racing, which I nearly bought the other day, and Darksiders. And then that's going to lead into our topics for discussion, which are disappointing sequels and most disappointing pre-orders. So, I'll go first. So I got sent Warlocks 2, which I'd never played the first one. I've never heard of it. It seems like quite an indie game, and tellingly, I was playing the game, and it's sort of like a 2D sort of roguelike game where you're. I thought there was.
I don't know. I thought there was something.
Oh,
it's just a B.
Yeah, I think it's like one of those Blit, BWIT. Yeah, so it's kind of a 2D sort of roguelike game where there's light platforming, and there's a lot of sort of totems that spawn enemies, and you've got to kill them. Most of the missions come down to go there and kill this, but it's kind of a partially procedurally generated map, and you choose from 5 characters, which are good. The characters are quite funny, and the dialogue and the writing is quite funny. But when I was playing it, I played it alone on the Switch, and I kept on. It felt like an online game. I thought, but there was no online capability, and I was playing it, and I thought this really feels like the way that the missions are kind of snappy, and you keep going back to a hub, and you get loot, and you pick up loot, and you sort of switch it, and then you go back, and it was quite repetitive. It really, and it got to a point where the enemies just became hit sponges, and I felt like I had to grind, and I thought this is very online, this got a real online sensibilities to it.
So there wasn't really any change to their attacks and stuff, it was just literally...
It was different characters and stuff, but it was just, you went to this certain world, and all of a sudden, everything just took a long time to kill. And it was just, because of that kind of online, just, sort of hack and slash combat, it was a bit repetitive. I say a bit. And when I looked at Warlocks 2 on Steam, it's online, and they make a point of saying that's the focus of it. And I think that, when you've mentioned this before, with the Switch, with Nintendo, games don't tend to be online unless they do well, because I guess it costs the developer money or something?
Yeah, well, especially with indie games, they often they will not have the online element at launch because
and then they'll patch it in if it sells well.
Up, yeah. Obviously, there are games like Warframe and Fortnite and stuff like that.
They need that.
Where it's a key part of it. But yeah, I think a lot of the times if it's indie and you can play it solo, then a lot of the time they'll just have that as at launch.
It was, if it was online, people would probably get a lot more out of it. So hopefully it does get online, because at the moment it just feels like you're playing an online game offline. And I played it with Chris, my friend, who often plays co-op games with me, and it wasn't enough to grab us. It was so kind of button bashy. I mean, you do get like upgrade trees and stuff, but it didn't feel sort of strong enough to stand up as a local co-op title that you would just play through. Although I think it is up to 4 players, so that's kind of cool. But it's kind of it felt a bit generic. So that wasn't great. Senran Kagura Peachball. Have you heard of this company, Senran Kagura?
No.
They tend to do, I've never heard of them, but they tend to do games based on essentially wide-eyed, busty Japanese women, like in various, I believe the first couple of games were sort of like isometric RPGs, hack and slash games, and then they did a few different bits and pieces. And Peachball is a pinball game. And the story is, I'm not going to attempt the names. The story was just so manic and colourful that things were just happening, and I was like, okay, let's play pinball. So the story is that this woman owns an arcade, and...
What? Why is there a story? Okay.
Hush my soul. So this woman owns an arcade, and her friends turn up. One of them, I think, spills a potion on her, and they all start turning into, like, essentially sexy animals. So you'll have, like, a bear with, like, the paws and, like,
That makes sense.
And the only way they can be turned back into humans is by hitting them with this ball.
Ah, right.
So they sit in the middle of this giant pinball table, and you basically have to hit them enough to... So playing it. And the story's bonkers and everything. Boobs are wobbling, bums are shaking.
Of course.
And all of the mini games boil down to, like, a close-up of, like, their chest on, like, a table, and you have to, like, hit stuff at them to make them wobble, and you get points and stuff, right? So it's all very, like, sexual. But the problem
Making
is...
boobs wobble.
Yeah, cracking album.
We've really come a long way, haven't we?
This is the thing, right? So, my history with like erotic games comes from like the Amiga of like say Strip Poker 3. Welcome to Strip Poker 3. And which I used to play with the sound off because my parents are next door, and that was like, at least it was bad low resolution images, but it was images of women, real women, and it was like boobs, and like as a teenager that was titillating.
Boobs which did not wobble, I might add.
No, they were static images. So you were lucky if you got a GIF, let me tell you. So that's pretty much my history with erotic games. So. But what I didn't understand with this was the pinball aspect of it was pretty generic.
Right.
Like, it didn't feel responsive enough. And it did this thing, which I've noticed like with the kind of lower tier pinball games, where because the physics aren't quite there, you know, you can quite easily get the ball into a loop.
Yes. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so you know you'll hit it. And because it doesn't feel so, like, you know, on the flipper, you know that if you hit it there, you know exactly what's going to happen. And I could literally just keep it in.
It doesn't feel like it's obeying real life physics. It feels like it's obeying
following
a
a
set
pattern.
of rules.
A set of pattern. If you hit it there, it's going to go off and do this.
Yeah.
And like,
but even like Pinball Fantasies or Pinball Dreams got that kind of stuff right 25 years ago.
And it's 13 FPS as well. So,
oh, good.
And in a pinball game, you want it to be as smooth as possible. So the pinball was quite average, and it had, because of the kind of the bonkers music and all the colourful and all the stuff flashing up on screen. Sometimes things would appear on the table and all the points would be flashing up, and it would just be really hard to see the ball. So the pinball was like okay, and then the sort of sexy part of it, the erotica part of it, was just really weird. Like, it was like a mixture of like really odd and creepy. Like, there's a mode in it where you can go, and like a lot of it is based on like unlocking clothing and stuff, so you can like dress them up. And there's a mode in it called, I think it's called like watch mode or something like that, and you go in it and it's just a woman in the middle of a room and you can squirt water at her and she responds by like, stop it. And it's like, alright, a bit creepy.
She doesn't want
it.
That.
It's not like she's giggling. And then you can get two hands and just like grope her. And I thought, I don't...
She doesn't want that either.
Yeah, she doesn't seem keen.
It's a sexual assault simulator. Okay.
So I thought this is a really odd like Japanese like novelty, and maybe I'm clearly not the target demographic, but I didn't know who would be. And then I looked at the price of it, and I don't normally worry about the prices of games because people have different incomes, they can pay for whatever they want. It's full price.
Full price being like 35
I finished the game in an hour.
Whoa.
I'd say an hour, maybe 90 minutes tops, but I finished the whole thing. The story like wrapped up. The story, it doesn't matter what the story is. And then it's just like unlocking stuff. But I played it for an hour and a half. I finished the game, and I got enough coins to unlock like one item of clothing or two, and there's loads. And there's a link to the Nintendo eShop in there.
Oh.
So I was done with it basically.
So it's got microtransactions as
Yes.
well. Good.
So
good.
I that was me kind of done with it. I would not. I don't know who would. It's not sexy. It's kind of fun, but a bit generic, and it's massively overpriced for what it is.
Speaking of Pinball Dreams, Pinball Fantasies,
Really
and Pinball Illusions, of course, that was by Digital Illusions. You know what they make now?
Dice.
Digital
And they do-
Illusions, yeah.
and they
Computer
make-
entertainment.
I always get
the
those
Battlefield games.
Battlefield. I always get the Battlefield and Call of Duty mixed up.
It's weird, isn't it?
Because I don't play any of them. I don't kill about them. So yeah. So the last one. Well, the penultimate one for me is Irony Curtain from Matryoshka with Love, which was really good. It was.
It's a cool name, Irony Curtain.
Yes, that sensibility runs through the entire game. So you play like a really proud young communist in this, I guess he's supposed to like late teens, early 20s, who gets embroiled in this kind of spy tale up in Matryoshka. And I believe the Matryoshka is the name of the dolls, the Russian dolls.
Oh, right, okay.
So you go off to essentially from America to Russia, and you get embroiled in this kind of conspiracy. And what I loved about it the most was the main character, I think his name, I played it a while ago, I think his name's like Evan Kovalkovich or something. He's not like a gravelly voiced anti-hero, and he's not like a dullard, or he's just a relentless optimist. Right. And a lot of the humour comes from him being in these ridiculous situations and just like, oh well, like getting on with it and like being relentlessly positive. Like there's a bit where you go into you go to Matryoshka and he's clearly being really mistreated and spied on this hotel, and he pulls down the curtain at the back of the room and there's this big steel door and he looks through the keyhole and there's a guy in there with like this kind of lisp, but a really thick, gravelly Russian accent as well. And he's like, you need to help me, you need to... And he's like spitting through it. And he's like, I'm not going on the door because you're clearly in there for a reason. I'm probably going to do a little bit more research about this situation beforehand. I'm having a bit of trouble understanding you, and he's just like really bright-eyed and bushy-tailed about everything that happens, and it was really funny. And it doesn't punch down. The humor doesn't punch down. It just kind of, the humor is like in and of itself.
Yes.
So, and the puzzles are pretty good. You know, you go there and it's all logic based. It might be a little bit off the wall.
Is it like a graphic adventure?
Oh, sorry, yeah, it's like a 2D point and click graphic. It's pretty classic in how it works.
Is it like pixel art and stuff?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, nice.
It's like really like high resolution graphics, but it's all kind of, it's sort of like they're the Tentacle kind of graphics.
Nice. Oh, as in the remaster or the original?
Oh, I would say, the remaster.
Yeah, so quite crisp.
Quite crisp, yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
I found the interface slightly clunky because, like, to get your inventory up, you have to hold the trigger down, so you don't press it and it snaps to it. You have to kind of move to it.
Yeah,
it's slightly awkward, but
something about playing graphic adventures with a pad is never quite right, no matter what they do. It was the same with The Secret of Monkey Island.
I do like what they've done in the modern ones I've played, though, where there's a button that highlights all the hotspots, so there's no pixel hunting anymore, because that basically saves people like 3 hours throughout the game. And the last one from me is American Fugitive. I just want to talk about it, because that was on track for being like a really tasty game. And my problem with it was, I played it, and there was like, the developers have stated that they messed up the launch build, and they kept on saying, we'll fix the frame rate, and they, what's that old Persian saying? Haven't. That's it, they haven't. But I left it for a few weeks because I wanted to wait for the frame rate to be sorted so I could enjoy it properly. That never happened, so I thought, right, I'm going to finish it. And I got back into it, and then like 2 hours after, like, so the game's about 5 hours long, 4 or 5 hours long, it just finished it, and it finished in a really underwhelming way, and the story like wrapped up. And it's been a long time since I've played a game where you can feel the budgetary and time constraints in it. Yeah. It starts off, and at the end of every mission, it says, go to visit one of your contacts for further missions. And at the start, you've got 2 or 3, 4 to choose from. But then after about 2 hours, it's one. It's always one. And you can tell they were like, right, we need to wrap this up. And it just boom, boom, boom. And it did feel, I wanted to make a sequel, and I wanted to just make it more expansive.
Well, hopefully they, if it did well enough, or at least was a decent enough kind of showcase, that they'd be given the time and money to be able to do that. Because I kind of feel a bit sorry for some indie devs. Like if it's a AAA game and they release it, it's like a Ubisoft game or something like that, and they release it and it's broken, there's no excuse, because they can delay it. They've got, they've got the money to delay it, something like that. But if it's an indie game and they need to keep afloat,
they need to get it out.
Yeah, it's harsh.
And I think I did feel it's kind of a good-natured thing, but it was disappointing in the way that it just kind of ended. Like it almost felt like a shareware game where the first hour really grips you, and then it just tails off.
Like Blood.
Which we're
more on that later.
Which we're going to play with 12 hours straight. So so I'll hand the reins to you.
Right. Okay. So my games this period have been Cadence of Hyrule, which is. You played Crypt of the Necrodancer at all?
No. I know the rhythm-based games, but that's my knowledge done.
So, like, top-down, pixel art, and actually it kind of makes sense now. Like, when I played Crypt of the Necrodancer, I never really thought, oh, this is like Zelda, but actually, when you think about it, it is, because kind of top-down, classic SNES-type Zelda. And so you move around the environment. I didn't really get into Crypt of the Necrodancer because I found it impossibly difficult to get into.
Right.
And there is still a bit of a learning curve in this, but it's because it's quite different and it feels quite original.
Oh, okay.
So it's the classic top-down Zelda thing, and it's the classic map where you've got screens, and so it's like I don't know, like 10 by 10 maybe, big map. So
it's tiled.
Yeah. So there's tiled map. And then within each screen, it's tiled as well.
Right.
When there's no enemies on the screen, you don't need to move to the rhythm. So, it's not like you're constantly moving to the rhythm. But when there are enemies on screen,
that's when it comes into
play.
That's
when it comes into play. And you can actually have a beatless mode where you can just move around and they only move when you move, sort of thing.
Right.
But the way it's meant to be played is like to the rhythm, and each enemy moves slightly differently. Has a different kind of almost dance move sort of thing. So sometimes they'll just move one space every other turn. Sometimes it's like one space every turn. Sometimes it's like they will prepare to strike one turn. And it seems quite overwhelming at first, but after a while you really get used to it, and yeah, it's just really cool, and it's got really nice progression to it. Like, it's procedurally generated to the extent that the tiles are shifted around, I think.
Right. Okay.
But it's quite nicely handcrafted. You got like dungeons and stuff, and yeah, it's just really cool. And it's all the kind of classic Zelda tunes remixed, basically.
And do you play Link?
Yes, you
Right,
play
okay,
Link.
yeah.
Yeah. And you also play. Do you play as Zelda at some point? Yeah, you can. Oh, you can choose either.
Oh.
And
Well.
you also. There's a third character called Cadence, which is quite nice because like her name is Cadence, and like so, and they form the Triforce at the end. Yeah, so spoiler alert.
Thanks.
But yeah, it's just really cool, and like probably about 6 to 8 hours maybe.
The key game length. Yeah.
And also, what it doesn't do, like some of the original Zelda games, is it doesn't leave you completely in the dark about where to go next. Although it is kind of open, but it's kind of the Metroidvania thing where you need to get this item. But
to go there.
You just wander around and you will find the items you need, and then you'll remember, oh yeah, I need that to get into this dungeon.
Oh, so that's quite cool.
It's really cool.
Is it single player?
Yes. Yeah, so that was really cool.
Good.
Virtua Racing I picked up because I saw a Digital Foundry video about how awesome a port it was. And of course, Virtua Racing was famously one of the...
Yeah.
It was on
32X.
32X. So
I've got it on the Mega Drive, but the frame rate...
Wow.
And this is
this is why I was interested in watching the Digital Foundry video to see what they've done, because it's like... Okay, you're going to take a game like that, you're going to keep it as it was, with like 8 frames a second or whatever, or they're going to upgrade it, and they have upgraded it to like 1080p, so everything's really crisp. Obviously, it's still the same level of polygons, but it's really crisp, and it's 60 frames a second. And I don't know how much that 60 frames holds up, because depending on how many players you have, because you can have up to 16 players on screen at once. You can have 16 players split screen.
What about I remember that game having like about 3 tracks.
Yes, it's got 3 tracks,
Yeah.
1 car, limited
Good.
in that regard, but it's just really fun, and it's like.
But it's like £6.
Yeah.
On the PS. I was going to buy it the other day, and I ended up going for
I
something
think it's
else.
worth it. Like, I've played it. It's one of those games which you just can just pick up, play, have a good time for like 20 minutes, and then leave it. But you'll always go back to it. It's one you always go back to.
And it's the 16 players thing is a nice novelty to have for that sort of.
It's just a really. Yeah, it's just a really fun game.
Is it online as well? Or?
I guess it's got online leaderboards.
That's what you really want. Yeah, that's cool. I'll pick that up.
And and then I played through Darksiders War Mastered Edition because I've never actually finished the original Darksiders.
No,
Probably because it came to a game-breaking bug, as I did with 1 and 2 on PC.
Really, I did with 2. Like,
Pretty sure I did with 1 as well. Maybe I just got stuck. I can't remember.
I remember just one just going on for like it felt like too long.
There is one bit.
Are you enjoying that? It's coconut coffee. Are you enjoying it?
It's pretty good actually. Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah, there's a point in Darkside. I love it. I love the fact that the combat's really meaty. It's got some of the best combat I think I've ever played.
It
It's
is
so good. And it's got really nice difficulty level where it's like you can't wade into enemies just like blindly, but you
and churn through them.
Yeah, but you can feel like a badass.
And when you take down a big one, you think.
Yeah. And
I remember him growling a lot, and I loved just how miserable he was and how
Yeah.
just completely driven.
Yeah, he's probably not quite as funny as
Death.
from the second one, but because of Michael Wincott, of course. But of course, the guy, your companion guy.
Death was played by Michael Wincott.
I think so, isn't he? I believe so. Might have to check this.
I know he didn't know. Mark Hamill was the voice of the Watcher.
Yeah, Watcher. Yeah,
And,
which is amazing because he just sounds like Joker. Good.
And he was in. I know Michael Wincott was in the remake of Syndicate. He was clearly the antagonist. This day he's like, oh, you got to go off with Jeff and do this really weird mission no one's going to talk about. Oh yeah, don't do that. I'm like, oh, you're the bad guy. You're like, okay. Sorry, go on.
I need to find out if Michael Wincott is. I'll when you're talking later, I'm just going to quickly slip on my phone. No one will notice. Yeah, so really cool game. Really, really lush. Runs beautifully on Switch as well because it's got
30 or 60.
60.
Nice.
It's got like it's got best quality or best performance mode. Best quality is 30 frames a second, but graphics are better, and then it's got performance mode.
Straight to performance.
But I didn't really notice any difference anyway, so I just thought
right.
I'll just have it on performance mode. I need this to be 60 frames a second.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is a point in that game where it feels like you've just beaten this big boss, and it feels like that's kind of the ending. Maybe they could have one more boss after that.
But it just goes on. I mean,
yeah, there's this weird bit where you have to go and find the pieces of this weapon, and basically you have to go to all the zones you've already been to and there's not really anything new there, so you just wander around these kind of empty zones.
I think this is why I stopped.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, that probably takes maybe an hour to do that whole thing, but it's like, why am I doing this? Because this is just padding now.
Yeah. In a game that doesn't need padding.
But once you've done that, then there's the final boss.
Right.
It was tricky, but I did manage to beat him in the end, so... The good thing about the bosses is that they've got unique attacks, but there's not, like, they're not relentlessly... It doesn't just ramp it up to an unfair point. It's like, once you've got it nailed, you can beat them, you just have to focus, so...
Right.
But it's a really cool game, and I can't wait for it. I'll probably get Darksiders 2 when it comes out again, because... And hope it doesn't break like it did on PC.
For me, Darksiders 2, that point it hit was... For you, it was an escort mission, wasn't it?
It was an escort. I was escorting... What's his name? Urethra or something? No, Olsane.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Olsane.
The blacksmith thing.
Yeah, and he just got stuck in a corridor, and of course, because it's auto-save, and we got one save point.
Should never happen. No,
it should be somewhere around that.
Because I know they do that so people can't like spam cheats and saves, but that's their decision. If they want to do that, they can mess up their own game. For me, it was a similar thing. I was walking along and the game just stopped loading. And when I walked, I just fell into infinity and the game crashed. And I rebooted it and nothing. I tried to go back to trigger another save, and when I got to that point, it's like that's where the game stopped.
I had that with Darksiders 3 actually.
Really?
The falling through the scenery, yeah, because it has.
It's obviously the game engine.
In Darksiders 1,
yeah,
it hides like the loading by going through these kind of portals. So you go through these really basic kind of corridor bits. And that loads the next section, and it's like it's a bit tedious but understandable, better than a loading screen. But in Darksiders 3, it kind of hides it by just being corridors in the real world sort of thing. So it's clearly streaming in data as you're walking through these bland little corridors. And then, but like on a couple of occasions on PC, I was walking through these corridors and it just didn't load anything, and I just fell into infinity. Thank you, Lord. Let's have a quick look and see if Michael Wincott was in Darksiders 2.
I hope people are watching this thinking, Michael Wincott. What you should be thinking is, Michael Wincott. Oh, that's right. Metro with Eddie Murphy and Michael Wincott.
You should be thinking, Michael Wincott, his cameo in Strange Days is one of the best performances I've ever seen. He's so good. He's in the film for literally...
Oh, less than
No, not Strange Days, sorry. He is in Strange Days as the bad guy.
Along Came a Spider?
No, I'm thinking of the assassination of Richard Nixon.
Okay, I'm not.
Sean Penn. He plays Sean Penn's brother. In like, he's just a really smart, well-to-do Jewish guy, and he just comes to visit Sean Penn, and literally it's just Michael Wincott sitting in a chair lecturing his brother, and it's just so good.
Really?
Yeah, he's just really, really good, and he's like anything that Sean Penn's so like weaselly and weak. But every time he tries to speak, like Michael Wincott's just like, no, let me speak, and it's like really, really.
I do like
overpowering.
He does bring gravitas to anything.
Yeah,
like his voice is amazing.
His voice is so deep. Michael Wincott. This is a top tier program. Watching a man type in Michael Wincott into his phone. That's definitely a tag in the YouTube video. 61. He's still got his best years ahead of him.
Yeah. Oh, his voice is going to become amazing in his 60s and 70s.
Okay, it doesn't... A career? Let's have a look here.
Sorry about this. I should be playing like Muzak.
Yeah. Death in the game Darksiders 2.
I'll have to play that again then, won't I? Sorry, thanks, Mike.
He was Jules Merritt in the game Syndicate.
Yes.
Obviously. So he was a bad guy, and his surname was Merritt as well. So.
Yeah.
God, they're really trying to throw you off.
It's not as good as End of Days. I think it's End of Days where Arnie's called Jericho Kane, and I think like, what's that guy who was in Usual Suspects? Kevin Pollak, and his name's like Bobby Chicago. It's just nonsense. So yeah, that leads us on to disappointing sequels. Really, what time is it, by the way, sir?
It is 8:45.
So that leads us on to disappointing sequels, and what brought this up was because we're doing a charity stream today. This will obviously be like a week before this goes online, but we're going to play Blood. 6 of us are going to play Blood for 12 hours to try and finish it on the hardest mode. And I love Blood, 1997, Monolith Productions, and I loved it, and it was the best of the build engine games for me. Then the sequel came out, and I think it was 2000, and it was at that point of like the early 2000s where the transition to 3D, and the game just felt random. And it's one of those ones that no remaster can save because it's just
the core game.
Because the core game and the level design is so bad. And I remember buying that when it came out and playing it for like an hour or two and just thinking, I'm really struggling through this. Especially after, that would have been just after I played Half-Life as well. And it made me think about terrible sequels. And I wondered, I just wanted to chat about ones that, well, not so much terrible sequels, but like with Darksiders 2, where there's just a game-breaking bug, and like that's why I don't want to play the third one, because I've had such bad experiences with the series.
Yes, yeah. I did actually write down a few.
Oh, right. No.
Like, in terms of...
I see you managed to drag yourself away from Michael Wincott's Wikipedia profile.
Yeah, so... Well, I wanted to mention some, like, honourable failures in terms of, like, sequels. Sequels which were partially disappointing, but not, like, crushingly so.
Was Streets of Rage 3 in there?
Yeah, I didn't think of that, actually. Streets of Rage 3, the music in that game.
Yeah,
it's just nonsense.
Yeah, and just constant, like, grind points where, like, it'll stop and just enemies will spew onto the screen for 15 minutes.
It's ridiculous, that game.
Boring.
These are actually a few of these from like the kind of Amiga era, to be honest.
Really?
But like, cause like Chaos Engine 2, because I don't know if you ever played that.
It's not like an arena thing.
Yeah, they tried to, like Chaos Engine being like
Amazing.
top down, like co-op shooter.
Node activated. Yeah.
Yeah, really cool, like adventure. And then of course they made the sequel, and it was like a kind of deathmatch arena thing. It's like, I respect the fact they're trying to do something different, but that really didn't work. Cannon Fodder 2 was from the same era. And again...
Was that the one that have like aliens?
Yes.
Yes.
And they started throwing in like alien bits, and it's like, this isn't so good. Plus, my brother designed a level for that.
Oh, alright, why didn't?
And he never got... He was told to get a prize, and he just never got it.
Really?
Yeah.
The thing is, he's in contact with Stu Cambridge on
Yeah,
Twitter.
right,
He should say, like, can I have my $5?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Curse of Monkey Island. Again...
Not the third one.
Yeah, not
yeah,
a bad
I didn't like the
game.
art style in that. The
No,
sort of
it's
thin. Yeah.
I thought they got the guy's voice right. Like, it's kind of how you imagine Guybrush to speak. But yeah, it was. I think after 1 and 2 was so good, so classic.
And 2 was such a good ending.
Yes.
Like such an odd ending.
Yeah, it didn't quite. It felt more like a fan game, which is probably what it was, to be honest. Quake 2. Because Quake was obviously such a step forward for like first person shooters, because it was like proper 3D for the first time.
What, instead of looking up like this?
Yeah, instead of the graphics twisting as soon as you press page up to look up. Yeah, so because of course by that point it was like mouse look was the standard. But yeah, Quake 2 was a bit of a weird one. It was a bit of a mishmash of like it was trying to go to all this sci-fi, and it was like a bit of a shoddy version of what like Halo would become or something.
Right, okay.
So it wasn't so good. And Bioshock 2 was another one that didn't quite do it for
Your
me.
description of it to me was enough to make me not want to play it.
Yeah, it's beautiful and it's atmospheric, but it did something which I guess the very concept of being like a Big Daddy never did it for me, because what I loved about the original was the Big Daddies were so mysterious and tragic.
And you're so fearful of them.
Yeah.
One of the moments in gaming that really, really sticks in my mind was in the first Bioshock there's a sequence where you're walking through like a tube, and you're just like plodding along, and you hear this kind of, and then I sort of turned, and just saw like the Big Daddy hand in hand with that little girl, and she just looks at you, and then they kind of skip round a corner.
Yeah.
And I thought, I don't want to bump into that.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that being the last time I see that.
It was terrifying.
Yeah.
And like.
And they're so fast and like.
Well, and the first time you meet, like you have to fight one, it comes up with like a splash screen to say this is going to be really hard. And it's
really?
Like, gee, wow, that's like, really scary now.
Let me pull my trousers back.
You're going to have to beat that thing, and it's going to be really difficult. Of course, by the end, you're just kicking their asses, so it's fine. Yeah, so they were the kind of the honourable mentioned ones. But we've, like, mentioned... One I was going to mention, which was real disappointing, was Darksiders 3. We've already mentioned that.
Yeah.
But, because they went from, like a kind of Zelda-type adventure, like, or a Metroidvania type thing, even Metroid Prime type thing, with like really snappy combat, just beating up enemies, like waves of enemies, and they went into the Dark Souls territory, and that just completely turned me off.
Yeah, those games don't grab me.
It was a really dull slog through the world, and of course the problem is that they didn't really change the essential thing underneath, which is a lot of backtracking, going between places and having vague destinations, which is okay if you're able to like build yourself up to wade through enemies on the way.
And if it's fun to traverse the world.
Yes, but in this it was not fun, and because every battle was so kind of brutal, it was like it didn't make sense to be backtracking through the world because it's just annoying and slow. And then on top of that, it didn't really make sense to the character either, because she's constantly like saying, she's very cocky and like saying, oh, you know, I'll just kill everything in my path. But of course, you're not really killing everything in your path, because you're actually having like really, really tentatively like draw enemies towards you so you don't get too many. Because as soon as you start fighting more than one, it's a complete nightmare and it's impossible to know which one you're actually targeting. And so you're constantly dodge rolling around the place. It's like, this has just turned into Dark Souls now.
Yeah.
And I don't want to play that.
Did you finish it?
No, I got about maybe 2/3 of the way through.
I just
thought this is just tedious now. And it was really buggy on release as well.
Really?
Yeah.
It's THQ, and I guess they've been bought up by someone else now.
Yeah, I think it had a much lower budget. It was a different team that made it. And again, I kind of respect the fact they're going for a different direction. It's just not the direction.
But I suppose someone will like that.
I guess so. But will it be people who were into Darksiders in the first place?
Well, considering that both of us were and aren't.
That's true. So, any particular disappointing sequels for you that spring to mind?
No, but Blood 2 was the main.
one?
That was the one that sort of sparked this off for me.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to quickly think now.
Well, I mentioned Bioshock 2 before. I'd say that the bigger disappointment was Bioshock Infinite, because although it had a beautiful world, again, I think gameplay-wise it suffered because it came out around the same time as Dishonored. And Dishonored was so much more fun to traverse the world, and it had like the blink mechanic,
the skyhooks and stuff. It just didn't. Again, it was really beautiful, but it just did. I bought it again. I bought it on the PS3. I had it on the PC, and I bought it on the PS3, and I wanted to play it, and I still couldn't get into it.
Yeah,
I just don't know what
it is. It's a cool world, but the problem is that once you pick up Elizabeth, and it becomes like a long escort mission essentially. You've got the classic thing of like the storyline being at war with the design of the game. So
you're clearly trying to skedaddle.
Yeah.
But there's loads of stuff to do.
Yeah, there's loads of stuff to go and explore, and like machines to play around with, and drawers to rifle through and stuff. And yet you've got her over your shoulder saying, "Come on, we gotta go," and it's like, oh, let me just go.
Hang on, let me look at
let me
these
just go in
knives
this
and forks.
ye olde shop. It looks interesting. So it's like constantly like that, and I guess it didn't work for me. The fact that it was like it's still the same basic gameplay as the original, where you're alone and you've got this kind of survival mechanic.
Yeah.
And yet it's like a full-on shooter, like fast-paced, almost on-rail shooter type thing, and so it really didn't work at all for me. And of course the final act was massively overreaching, if you remember it.
I think I read it because I didn't get that far. I got about 2 or 3 hours in both times and just thought, this just isn't my thing. Yeah.
I mean, the ending of Bioshock 1 was pretty bad because it's just a stupid boss, but this just went on and on. It was
really?
Yeah, it just got really tediously metaphysical.
Yeah, and the sort of twist as well just made me sigh. So I think we're gonna, because we've got people coming around in about 40 seconds. Should we leave the disappointing pre-orders for next time?
Yeah.
Did you have any other sequels?
The only other one was Arkham Knight.
Oh God, yeah. Because with that you had Arkham Asylum.
Perfect game.
One of the best games ever made, and I played through it. You've played through it a few times now.
Yeah,
I think I've done it twice.
100%ed it a good couple of times. I just get everything. I love it.
I played it again the second time and was just smiling the whole way through. Boom, tight, like 7-8 hours. Boom, boom, boom. Arkham City totally opens up. You're in Gotham. Awesome, amazing.
Yeah.
Arkham Origins, okay.
Yeah, not bad.
Pretty much felt like
the
like a
detective
rehash.
mechanic stuff. Yeah.
Pretty much felt like a rehash of City, but again, that's fine.
But it's set at Christmas as well, so that made it a bit. It reminded me of Batman Returns, so that was fine.
Batman Returns is the best Batman film, by the way. And then Arkham Knight came out, and for a start, they said Arkham Knight, totally new character. Is it? Or is it the Red Hood? How about that? And
the way they shoehorned.
Yeah. And the Batmobile.
Oh my god, the Batmobile.
I was sick of the Batmobile.
They really tried their hardest to make that fun and snappy and arcadey, but to the point where it didn't even feel like a car anymore. It just because you were able to like jump in it, and like it didn't really matter what you smashed into, because they basically didn't want to make it so that it made no sense to use it, if you see what I mean. Like, because why would it make sense to use it when you can literally just fly around
and
the
do
city?
whatever you want? Yeah.
Why would you limit yourself with the Batmobile?
And
So
is it geometric, the term for the where the laser comes and then you have to shift to one side, and oh god, I was just so sick of the Batmobile. Again, they're trying to ramp it up and do something. I just remember one bit where they say, "Oh, you've got to jump from one building to the next to use the winch to pull something off." And I thought, the Batwing, please get the Batwing and do that for me. And I just remember really tediously, like going up this like half-finished building and like traversing and turning really tight corners and thinking, "Oh, this is not fun!"
Really gently, like sidestepping in a tank. It's like, what?
I was pressing all the buttons, but apparently there's no button to make Blackman just blow his brains out and put a stop to it.
Pity. It's R1 and R2.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm with you. All the ones you said, I totally agree with. They've always just been a bit of a. I didn't think of the third games in but
yeah,
Bioshock.
But the thing is, it's like
everyone seemed like Bioshock Infinite. People loved, like really loved.
I mean, I suppose it's a little bit more immediate than the other games.
Yes,
and a
they
bit less.
kind of reveal themselves to you.
They basically just removed the survival horror element and made it into an action shooter, which is with a political element, because there's no politics in games, unless it's women or black people.
Yes, yeah, I remember that. There's that scene where they kind of inferring that this couple, it's like a mixed race couple, and
it is creepy, and the world building is good, but because you don't have time to look at it because you're just sprinting through the world, gunning people down. So, yeah.
Come on, we've got to go. He's literally coming. He's right behind us. Hang on.
Yeah. But I'd have to say, just generally, like, games don't follow the movie thing of like sequels generally being worse. With games, sequels usually get better because they can iterate on.
And if the budget will be bigger and they'll have more time on it.
Yeah, because you think about something like Half-Life 2 and it's leagues better than Half-Life 1, for example.
Yeah, that was a song. I remember the scene in that where you're in that, I think it's like a buggy, and just the sense of distance you're travelling.
I know, even though it's real corridor.
Yeah,
stuff,
but you just feel like you're just making
this
this
like you're going up the whole coast. And then, like, there'll be a house just like on the coast. It's like, I can drive past, but I'm going to go in there.
I'm going to go through those
find
drawers.
some buzzing spiders.
So, what would you say then is, you've got Warlocks 2, Senran Kagura Peachball, Irony Curtain from Matryoshka with Love, American Fugitive, Cadence of Hyrule, Virtua Racing, Darksiders, Game of the Week?
For me, Cadence of Hyrule, I'd say.
For me, it would be Irony Curtain from Matryoshka with Love, because it's just nice to play a genuinely charming and amusing like adventure that you just want to spend time with because like the characters are so funny. So yeah, that was good. When I started off this period with Peachball and the disappointing ending of American Fugitive, and then like that, what was the other game? Warlocks 2. But then Irony Curtain kind of saved it. So yeah, Irony Curtain and Cadence of Hyrule. I think there may have been a slight difference in budgets between those games.
Just a bit. Yeah.
Right then, what are we talking about next time? So next time we'll do the disappointing pre-orders, which we both had trouble with. You more than most. And there's a load of games. There's a load of games I've played this week that have been really tasty.
Yeah, I'm a bit limited at the moment because I'm moving house, so I've got nothing to really play at the moment. But
oh well, hang on. Here you go. Look. Do you wanna?
Oh yeah, well there you go. That should keep me going for the next 2 weeks.